order now. Can we have a roll call, please? I know you're wearing like 3 hats tonight.
Are you going to do the roll call?
Dave.
All right, we are going to do the roll call.
Just read the name.
Sorry, everybody, I'm the new guy. All right, we have Commissioner Walters,
Here.
Commissioner Light,
Present.
Commissioner Kilroy,
Here.
Commissioner Carlson,
Here.
Harbor Chairperson Cherzon,
Present?
which, by the way, I'm working on updating your title. I apologize.
That's okay.
And Commissioner Callahan.
Present.
And then we do not have today Commissioner Bauer.
Chair Bauer.
All right, we will salute the flag. Vicki, if you could lead us.
Put your hand over your heart. Repeat with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Item D, we'd like to approve the order of the agenda. Does anyone have any changes they'd like to make to the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Order of agenda approved?
No.
Actually, call for it.
Vote.
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Order of agenda remains. Blue folder items.
Yes, can you hear me? This is Greg Kapovich.
Hey, Greg, yes.
We hear you.
Thanks, guys. We do have 2 blue folder items tonight. One is the staff presentation from our planning department. The other is one series of comments from a concerned citizen regarding item J1, which is our public hearing item. And those were emailed to each of you.
Motion to approve blue folder items
Receive and file.
or receive and file.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Please receive and file. Consent calendar, approval of the affidavit of posting for the Harbor Commission meeting tonight and the approval of the meeting minutes. Are there any comments on F1 or F2?
We do not have any comments.
Motion to approve consent calendar.
I had two things actually, if no one else had anything.
No.
On the meeting agenda on page 12, just a correction. It says that Commissioners Krazan and Bauer supported distributing out the plans from SWA throughout the harbor. And at least on my part, I intended to say that it should just be shared with the public, I didn't mention anything specific to handing out just to the harbor. And then page 13 says Commissioner Light stated the boat hoist was not originally part of the mold B design. Should that have been mold D, Jim?
No, that was accurate.
correct? Okay.
Originally, Mulby did not have the hoist in it, but they put it in because of some of the residents' concerns.
Okay.
So that's actually
The
accurate.
minor page 12.
Okay, so Greg Kapovich again, Waterfront Director. We can do this 2 ways. We can, you can direct staff just to make that simple change and approve the minutes with that proposed change, or we can actually bring the item back so that you can look at it next meeting in January and approve it. It's up to you guys.
Motion to approve page 12 correction that the SWA materials be shared with the citizens.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the change to the minutes passes.
And technically, we should approve the affidavit, so.
Okay. Motion to approve the affidavit.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Nothing for item G. Item H, public participation on non-agenda items. We will hear from those present first and then take Zoom. Is there anyone in the public that would like to step up and talk on non-agenda items? Okay.
Any?
Do we have any in Zoom?
Anybody online?
We have no Zoom comments.
And I know we're not reading them, but do we have any e-comments?
We do not have any comments.
Okay, thank you. All right, item I, ex parte communication for public hearings. Yes,
I had a meeting with Alan Sanford and Jeff Jones, the applicants for J1. We had a little meeting and they answered several of my questions.
okay. I also had a meeting with Jeff Jones to understand J1 and listen to that.
Same, meeting with the applicants and also discuss that meeting with the waterfront director.
Ditto, and just for a point, we met separately. There was no Brown Act violation.
Yeah, we all met separately.
So, same thing.
Same with the harbor director and with Jeff and Alan. Although I'm really hurt because I thought I was the only one. I thought it was special.
Jim, you are special.
Same here. I met with Jeff Jones and Alan for an hour, but we also talked about music aside from J1.
Yes.
So.
Okay. Item K, items from previous agendas. Nothing there. Item L. Why doesn't it have the? Oh, I skipped, sorry. I was like, where is that? J1. So now we enter the public hearing, consideration of an exemption declaration and amendments to a conditional use permit for two locations in the harbor, 239 and 245 North Harbor Drive.
If you don't mind, I'll start off. This is Greg Kapovich, the waterfront director. Before I hand it off to the applicant and to our planning staff, Antonio Gardia, just want to recognize that this is a great opportunity down at the waterfront. The timing is such that the applicant kind of waited for the amenities plan to go through this process. There were a couple iterations of the amenities plan that called for both these buildings and potentially the Captain Kidd building to be removed. So they had to wait idly as we kind of made decisions on what we would do with those buildings. And the approved document that was approved by council in October does keep those buildings in place. So now the applicant can move forward with their grand plan here. These buildings have been sitting vacant for quite some time. So, something that's been in the works for a while. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Antonio, who's going to walk us through the application itself.
Thank you, Director Kapovich. So tonight's item is consideration of amendments to two conditional use permits. There's 4 resolutions that go along with these two different building pads. And both buildings are on Harbor Drive. They're in the waterfront area. These would be, the amendments are requested as part of the renovation project to have the buildings be a little bit more compatible with one another. As you can tell from this rendering we have on the cover page here. The 4 resolutions that would be amended deal with 239 Harbor Drive, and that's Harbor Commission Resolution number 20, and Harbor Commission Resolution number 67A. There's 5 conditions in the first resolution and 3 conditions in the second that would be amended. And these conditions that would be amended deal with landscaping, with signs, the ability to have entertainment on site, the hours of operation, sound prevention measures, and the site layout, which is already pretty much fixed. The second two resolutions that would be amended are resolutions number 50 and 63, and those are for the site at 245 Harbor Drive, and that's the Ruby site. There's 9 conditions in the first resolution and 5 conditions in the second. And these deal with the site conditions in relation to the Seaside Lagoon, restrictions on alcoholic beverage service in the lagoon. There's some operational requirements that were included in the conditions of approval that deal with the snack bar. And then there's things like contributions for the Seaside Lagoon renovation project. Many of those really shouldn't be in the conditions of approval for the use. They really are part of lease negotiations, and they should have been separate anyhow. There's some height restrictions, again, hours of operations restrictions, entertainment and music restrictions, and some noise mitigation items that are also talked about in those conditions that are requested to be amended, as well as some reference to building and fire codes. There are some requirements like aisle widths and things like that. The project is located in the CC3 zone, and these are restaurant uses with outdoor dining areas. And the site consists of 2 building pads within the leasehold area. And again, with the CUPs, they're required to try and mitigate or review or add conditions to these uses that would otherwise be allowed, but they're to try and prevent externalities or some adverse effect on neighbors. And in this instance, I think in reviewing the minutes and the conditions, it looked like there was 2 issues primarily. One was the height and the views out into the marina, and the second was noise. And noise was the one that really kind of there was a lot of discussion about that in the minutes and in the staff reports and from what staff could gather. These are just pictures of how they exist today, the 2 buildings. And again, we're looking to, the applicant is looking to renovate the 2 buildings and have them look a little bit more compatible to one another, more kind of in sync. The views to the marina, the harbor there, are obstructed by vegetation and structures. So it's not like you have a clear view out towards the ocean there from Harbor Drive. This is the existing plot plan showing the location of the buildings and their lease areas. And this shows some of the improvements, in particular the canopies over the existing outdoor dining areas, as well as some renovations to the roof of the building at 239 North Harbor Drive, which is the On the Rocks building. This is a diagram that shows the reconfigured seating areas with the new outdoor dining area and the landscaped portion here. If you could see my mouse. And then there's also a proposed storage locker area down the bottom here. Part of the CUP amendments that the applicant is requesting is to allow some ancillary uses like equipment rental. So that would kind of be captured in this. And again, those are storage lockers for like stand-up paddle boards and those types of things. As part of the project, the coral trees would be removed and replaced. This is outlined at the top corner here in red, in the red circle. And then at the bottom here is where the storage lockers would be on the side of this wall. Again, there's quite a bit of renovations that are proposed. Again, that's where the storage lockers would go at the 239 building. And then this shows the depiction of the 2 outdoor dining areas. The number of seats still remains the same, and the existing canopy or the canopy structures that are proposed are over the existing dining areas. So those are, the reconfiguration of the site and these minor structures are exempt from CDP. They're not intensifying the uses, they're just kind of reconfiguring those uses. These graphics show the elevations for the 239 building and how they're looking to renovate that. And then this shows the renderings or the elevations for the 245 building, the Ruby's building. And here, again, I had mentioned that one of the items that was of concern is the height. This removes the spire, so it actually reduces the height overall for that building. The restaurants are considered a visitor serving use, and it's an amenity that it's in compliance with the LCP and the purposes of the zoning code and the implementation plan for the local coastal program. We did receive the email from the neighbors that cite some noise concerns. And again, that was an issue that was discussed quite a bit when both of these were approved by the Harbor Commission in the past. The request that kind of stood out in the blue folder items is that the applicant is seeking, the neighbors are seeking that the applicant keep their outdoor patio dining areas, that the hours of operation be limited to 8:30 as they are now. But again, that's up to the commission to deliberate and decide on. That's what's being requested tonight. Staff recommends approval, and we know that the applicant is here tonight and can also, you all met with them already, but I'm sure that they're going to be available for any questions that you may have. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Questions to staff from commission?
So we're basically approving SUP rentals out of this facility at this point?
That's one of the requests, is to allow some ancillary equipment rentals. So it's taking the existing square footage or taking the existing building, using a portion of it to actually allow them to do that and have a small locker facility and some storage on the exterior of the building.
So when we approved this previously, we had a whole bunch of CUPs related to SUP, rental, and I don't see that in our package.
I didn't come across that either. You mean as far as
Things like training the people before you send them out, and the map, they have to have PFDs. There are all sorts of rules that we put on Olympus and others who want to open a mobile one, and also on Paddle House that has a brick and mortar. And I didn't see those in here. So I was surprised we're approving that at this point without having the same conditions that we required of maybe it's not out of an ops plan, but I remember debating that in depth when Olympus, well, not just Olympus, when we were allowing the mobile operations to come in via permit.
Okay, well, that's something that either we can add in as a condition, that they have operations plans that are subject to review and approval by staff, or if you want something more in depth, we can always bring it back.
Well, I just want to make sure we're congruent with what we forced the other folks to do.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that Paddle House actually has a CUP.
I don't think we discussed Paddle House, but it was when Olympus was coming, when the permit system came up for those who were mobile, and Paddle House certainly had a lot of comments on their restrictions and that the mobile operator should have to comply with those same conditions, which we spent a lot of time on trying to make sure it was, leveling the playing field and making sure we had the same requirement.
Absolutely.
Okay, and can you show the trees again that are being cut out?
Those, I believe those are naked coral trees.
So those are on the east side on the rocks.
They're to the north. They're south of the Ruby's building.
So kind of in between the two.
Yeah.
Okay. And what were you showing with that circle there?
That's where the storage lockers would be
Okay, I got it.
for the
Okay,
equipment
yep.
rentals.
Okay.
Just to tag on to his question, in the resolution, it says operation of a restaurant. So I was a bit confused. It's restaurant, but like we don't name all the other amenities in that.
No, it's, that's what I was saying, it's considered an ancillary use. It's not something that's necessary for the restaurant operations. We can always include it as, to allow, I mean, it's not a principal use, so that's why.
Right, I just was surprised when it wasn't mentioned in the resolution. Like, doesn't it need to be in there or no?
Well, it's an ancillary use. It's not a primary use. It could go away or it could remain. We can always include that in the, I mean, these are draft resolutions. We can always add it back in or add it in or add specific language that calls that out.
Anything else, Jim?
Just as to the sound, I understand we got a comment tonight. And I don't remember the old operations, but did they keep their speakers towards the ocean and they could still hear them back in the?
I think there was a lot of boisterous activity taking place in the past. And I think the noise traveled and there was, like I said, there was some very specific conditions about signage and flashings,
Yeah, I
signage
remember
and those
that,
types of things because of previous operators.
And are we going to hear from the applicants tonight or?
Absolutely, I think we should.
Okay. I'll withhold the rest of mine until the applicants get to talk.
It was a very easy to understand package. Thank you.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Applicants?
Just trying to make my mic work. Before the applicants go, you had said that we got a letter requesting that operations be cut off at 8:30?
The use of the outdoor patio.
Specifically, what the letter says is no music after 8:30
Outside.
outside. So, Jim, you'd been talking about operations. This was the letter was with regard to music after 8:30. So I just wanted to clarify the letter from the public. And that was coming from one of the, I think one of the nearby condominiums, which I think is the closest housing there.
That's correct.
Yeah, but it was about the noise, so, right?
Music, not noise. It wasn't just boisterous
Right.
activity, which, could have been my fault back in the day, but I think it was specifically music.
It was.
Any other comments before we go to the applicant? I had a couple. The application says the request is 12 a.m., but then the resolution says 12:30 a.m. Why is that? And what's typical of other restaurants in the harbor as far as the later hours?
I think there's typically midnight would be like the standard. And if I recall correctly, it may be in the application or in one of the documents that said the hours of operation. It actually said till 1, but then the application said 12:30. And so 12:30 seems to be the requested time. But we could probably get clarification from the applicant specifically how late they expect to be open.
But 12 is typical, you said?
12 is typical.
Okay. And then just to help me understand, in the beginning of this type of document, it says, in the resolution, it says, permit subject to the plans and applications, and then we have a bunch of conditions. So that means, does that mean we are incorporating everything that's in the application? Even if there's like discrepancies, like with time, how does that work?
If I could just chime in.
Resolution trumps?
Yeah, so the hours, the conditions of approval should be specified in the conditions of approval. They're enumerated there, so that should be precise. And that should be those should be the outer limits of how late they can stay open. And like I said, for most restaurants, it's midnight is pretty standard or typical. Some we've had requests in the past to stay open past that time, like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. But I think in most cases, we've pretty much said midnight would be the limit.
Okay. Thanks. Yes, ma'am.
So this was part of the discussion I had with the applicants, but I might as well hear it from staff. Is there any part of this project, the renovation, that would interfere with the future of the public amenities plan? So one of the things I know they're looking for is a longer lease time, and I would hope that in the next decade, we move forward at least a few steps on the public amenities plan, and so I wouldn't want the two to overlap each other. Do you have a comment on that?
Commissioner Kilroy, I think that's probably a question that the director, or his staff present tonight might be able to answer more directly about the lease. I'm not involved.
Thanks, Antonio. I can take that one. Again, this is Director Kapovich. Yes, we are in negotiations with the applicant to potentially go into a longer lease. Obviously, we're not sure how that's going to turn out just yet. That said, the applicant has been willing to work with our Seaside Lagoon renovation efforts, and we absolutely anticipate having a working relationship between our chosen contractor and these two very close stakeholders as we develop finalized plans for Seaside Lagoon. Everything that they're proposing right now is within their own footprint, so nothing would affect the footprint of Seaside Lagoon at this point. But again, when we design Seaside Lagoon, we want to make sure that we're also cooperating with their overall vision and design for their facility. So there's going to be a cooperation probably starting in late January to get that going.
Is there any conflict with the new proposed location of the sport fishing pier?
The fishing pier where it's going to get demoed in the next couple months, is that the one you're talking about? Not the hand launch, right?
No, not the hand launch. It was really, I'm trying to remember exactly. I'm trying to think of an overlay of where the new sports fishing pier was visualized relative to these two properties.
You're correct. There would be no conflict. If I remember correctly, the sports fishing pier would be in the same general vicinity as it is now. The design that we saw in the amenities plan had more of an L shape. We're not sure which direction that L shape would go, or if it's even going to be an L shape when it's finally built. But I don't see any conflicts between both designs.
Yeah, my only other issue in that regards is obviously construction. Construction activities, whether it's demolition of the old pier or construction of a new pier, I'd be hard pressed to think it wouldn't impact their operations. That's
true. That's true. And even though we know construction can take a while, it is considered temporary in nature. So we'd have some kind of a construction plan that we would accommodate with the applicant. We would bring them in the fold for sure.
Okay, that's just, like I said, that was just a kind of a concern. I'm trying to overlay in my head the amenities plan with these properties and see where the moving pieces intersect.
Understood.
That's it.
Did you have something? No?
Nothing else right now. Thank you.
Okay, I think we'd love to hear from the applicant.
Good evening.
Evening.
Good evening. I'm going to plug us in here. Okay. Commissioner members, thank you for taking the time tonight. We're very excited to talk about this with you. I'm going to go into full screen mode here. It's been a long time coming.
You want to introduce yourselves?
Yes.
Is this going out to the public?
I believe so.
Because we can't see it on our present screen.
Can't see it on our screens.
Oh,
Let me see.
Look at this
Might ask Greg if he's seen it.
technology for us tall guys.
This part I haven't learned yet, but let me see if I can get it to you guys.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it, Roger.
Maybe there's a different camera view we can send it out on?
It's different from the lectern than it is from the side in terms of you seeing it on your dais.
Okay, we can turn around and look at it, but if it can go out to the public too, that'd be good.
Sorry.
Yeah, it sounds like he's getting a different feed over there.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt. If you load up the presentation to Antonio's computer, I think that's the ticket to get it to broadcast out.
Okay.
Yeah, I know we would be able to do it that way.
Antonio, do you want
I think he's just going to be able to shoot the screen and that'll display it out to the public.
Wonderful.
If you can
And then
shoot
we'll just
it.
turn around.
Yeah, if you guys just want to go ahead and turn around.
Okay, sure.
Shall we continue?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So as a introduction, I'm Alan Sanford. I own the Beach Life Festival. I'm the founder of the festival. I'm born and raised in the South Bay, 45 years. I was swimming in that little lagoon when I was 3 or 4 years old. I'm familiar with every nook and cranny of the South Bay. I am a lover of the ocean. I surf, I swim, I do every minute I get is something around the ocean. Very active in the community. I'm on the Police Foundation. I'm the president of the Redondo Village, or the Riviera Village Association. And I've been also building restaurants for about 25 years. Some of the restaurants that I built and was a investor or ran were include Union Cattle Company, Dia de Campo, Abigail, St. Rock, the Rockefellers, Primo, the Venice West, and a few other smaller ones. And I'm partnering up on this project with Jeff Jones.
Commissioners, I'm Jeff Jones, and I'm with, you may know me from Quality Seafood. Quality Seafood is about to celebrate its 70th year in business in Redondo Beach, down on the boardwalk. And I am representing the 4th generation of family to run and operate the business. We're a local family-owned business, and I'm also active in the community, and I'm active with our tenant associations, and I have a very vested interest in the waterfront. And as many of you may know, I was also part of the Waterfront Amenities Plan Working Group. And I also am an avid lover of the water. My wife and I are both surfers. We both love the ocean, we love the coast. And recently I've taken up sailing, so I'm interested in that. And I'm interested in some of the future amenities that we should be getting into down the road that will aid some of the local boat owners and visitors with boats in the area. But in particular, I guess one of my visions for this project is the experience that visitors and locals can have and share in a waterfront environment. And it's something that we have down on the southern end of the boardwalk, down at Quality Seafood, and we've had for decades. And certainly I think there's an opportunity for people to more fully enjoy and experience the northern end of that area of this project. Thank you.
So I thought it'd be interesting or important to talk about the impetus for the project, how it came up. I told you I'm an ocean lover, love active, love family, love paddling with my daughter on the weekend, and I'm a big fan of community, which is why I started the Beach Life Festival. I saw most of the no growth or limited growth happening with Center Cal. I saw what happened after, and there's a lot of polarizing opinions. And so I approached Mayor Brand and I said, we need something for the community that everybody can rally against. And I haven't checked the city record, but I believe that the vote for beach life on the councils, I'll go out on a limb and say it's the only 5-0 vote that's happened in the past 5 years. We can all argue about a lot of things, but I don't think we see much argument when it comes to community and music and sharing art together. And so I started working down there on a daily basis because I really wanted to understand the marina better on a business level, not just on a resident or consumer level. And really what I noticed down there is just a lack of energy and a lack of spirit and a lack of life going on down there for a large part of the year. And we, every day I look at that lagoon and I look at 9 months a year, fences up, no kids in it. And then the beach life comes along and there's absolute vibrance to down there. There's everybody hugging and enjoying life together, and then it goes away again. And so I started to try to think of a way of continuing this energy down there. And at first it was my natural skill set, which is a restaurant. But I think after being down there for 5 years, really what needs to happen and what Jeff and I have kind of dreamed up here is really a community gathering place, which is what I think would restore a lot of vibrancy down there. So the project values come from a place of wanting to be together, wanting to support active lifestyle, and wanting to celebrate the ocean. So obviously the project is called the California Surf Club. And the mission is to create a community place to enjoy activity, friends, nature, with people organized by a common interest, which is the love of the ocean and coastline. Some of the stuff we're gonna do, one of the commissioners asked, what's going on down there? Is it just a restaurant? I don't see it as just a restaurant at all. I see it as obviously full food and beverage service, but music, arts, business meetings, exhibitions, functions. Before the festival, we do a lot of events. We had a charitable function for our police foundation. We raised $35,000 in a night, having two of our partners play, Jim Lindbergh of Pennywise and Donovan Frankenreiter, a famous pro surfer. It's a place to gather, right? Kids games and areas. There isn't anywhere. I went paddling with my daughter. I got out of the water. There wasn't even a piece of grass we could hang out on, right? So big supporter of that. And then Commissioner Light to speak to the ancillary benefits of the paddle boards and the bikes. Really what we're trying to open the door for is to identify value down there. Even things such as one day working with the city to rent beach chairs in the lagoon, right? Or even to provide them. We are 100% supportive of an operational plan and safety in the ocean, and are in no way trying to de-level a playing field or even trying to compete with another existing business. That's not the goal. The goal is to open up kind of new ideas with either rentals or free bikes or things of that sort. So no doubt that will hash itself out in the operational plan. Anything else I'm missing on? Amenities, and then Jeff can talk about benefit to the city.
Yeah, and I'll get into
Perceived.
some of the other activities that we expect the California Surf Club to be participating in. If you get into those old CUPs for the lagoon or for the Rubies, there was a request that it support the lagoon by way of providing food and beverage affordable. It was noted specifically in those prior CUPs, affordable food and beverage for visitors to the Seaside Lagoon during the summer months. And certainly we commit to that. While we'll be focused as a restaurant for our regular guests on our main menu, we want to be able to provide a value for the people that are visiting the lagoon, and we'll have a separate menu for folks who'd like to order off of that. In addition to that, the food and beverage that we provide, and just if we didn't already hash that out, is we're looking to do what I would liken to a Santa Maria Central Coast type barbecue, some grilling, outdoor grilling, sandwiches, salads, and things like that, the types of foods you would expect to see if you were traveling the Golden Coast of California. In addition to that, yeah, we've mentioned some live music, smaller stuff, smaller scale, singer-songwriter, local artists. And Alan already mentioned a few of the other amenities, public and private event space, and business meetings, of course. Getting into some of the other elements of the project, I'd like to talk a little bit about the economics. That's all right. And so when you look at the economics, we are committed to investing $3.5 million over the life of the project into the properties and into the surrounding areas of the lagoon and the properties. The lease that we have worked out with the city, if you compare what we expect to generate in revenue versus the base rent numbers that we have with the city, that would be an $8 million increase over the life of the term. Additional parking revenue over the life of the project, we expect to see with the increase in visitors, with the frequency, either with the events at the lagoon or with just people visiting the business, $2.5 million. And an additional event rentals, anybody who decides to get a use permit for a single event or a 2-day event or anything like that at the lagoon will likely then want to use our facilities as well. We expect to see an additional $2.5 million over the life of the project, and so that comes to $16 million for the city over the life of the project. In addition to that, something that's not mentioned on there as well is currently the city gets a $2 per ticket fee for every ticket that is sold for an event at the lagoon. And certainly that would add revenue as well for the city, is getting a per ticket fee for the events at the lagoon. Finally, I'd like to talk a little bit about how we meld getting back into the waterfront amenities plan. And I was thankful to be on that working group. And looking at that plan, it specifically states that private investment is needed, and private investment is needed. It's literally the first page of that plan. We would like to be that, the tip of the spear, sort of going into investing in that area for the community and for the waterfront. In addition to that, these properties will be the business center for that plan. It's known as the Harbor Hub. If you guys have looked at that plan in detail, the Harbor Hub is exactly where we will be. And I think it's important that if that is going to be the center of the waterfront, that it look and feel like it had some money put into it, and look and feel like it belongs in a coastal beach town such as this. The properties as they stand are discontinuous in nature, and they don't really blend together. In addition to that, I just think that as a person who's fundamentally invested in that area, having a legacy business such as Quality Seafood, and the time that we've spent, we really anchor the southern end of the waterfront experience. And, we do our fair share. I think we have 60 to 70 employees throughout the year. I think we pay probably the most in rent of anybody down there. And I think what's needed is that northern end, a cap, another spot to the northern end of the waterfront that does the same thing, that brings people together for camaraderie and for the experience and for the overall, bonding and getting together along the waterfront. So that's what we're really proposing. And then in the middle, I think what happens is that all of the other businesses in between these two projects, rising tide lifts all boats, so to speak. I think really what we see is vibrancy. And we already are starting to see some of that now with some of the businesses that are down there. Project Barley, as an example, is a relatively new business down on the waterfront, and we're starting to see what they can bring and what vibrancy can bring to the waterfront. And I think this just puts a natural northern barrier to that whole area. And finally, our plan makes the area relevant, I think, year-round. Right now, we have this very seasonal area, the lagoon, very focused on the summer months. And I think that we help to make that part of the waterfront relevant every day, every month of the year. Did I miss anything? I think that about sums up what I have to say.
Yeah, look, we all want progress down there. I just speak for myself. I'm unbelievably appreciative of your collective efforts and the city council efforts to bring change down there. And these long-term plans are great, but we can't forget about the short and the midterm. And I think this is a great spearhead project to get that started. I did make some notes just on some of the things you guys talked about. The coral trees, I'm not necessarily opposed to taking them out. I love vegetation and trees whenever I can possibly have them. That might have got lost in translation, but that's not a hard, fast thing right there. The midnight application, just to be clear, there's always a different, having done CUPs for 25 years, closing time versus end of consumer time. Generally, what we like to do is give a half an hour barrier so that it's not kick people out 2 minutes before you close type of thing. In the hospitality business, that's not very hospitable. Ideally, 12 o'clock is when the customers leave and 12:30 is when we shut down the business. But if somebody is hanging around or somebody finishes, we don't want to be kicking people out. So that would be the request. As far as the 8:30 limitation and the outdoors, I don't want to be presumptuous that nobody knows the old days. I was down there in the old days, and it sounds like some of these guys were. Chillers was a phenomenon in the early times. I don't know a better word for it, but slushy drinks and just absolute out of control madness was that area. Moose McGillicuddy's. I don't want to get myself in trouble with the former chief of police here, but my brother's fake ID was in avid use at those places when we were younger. I think it's a different time down there. I read that CUP, and I think the word that popped up was scintillating signs. I think this is a different time and age. And while I understand and appreciate everybody's right to quiet, I think with Beach Life, we've done a good job of showing that technology and great planning will mitigate sound issues for the most part. And especially because we have a great big blue ocean right there. And as long as you point the speakers out to the sea, nobody's hearing anything.
I'd like to add to that. There are actually several businesses in the immediate area that have live entertainment, from R10 to Project Barley and the Slip and so on.
That's you.
And I think it's really important to, and I know that they have entertainment, into the later part of the evening, but I think being a good neighbor is important as well, and being responsive to complaints of noise and being responsive to issues. But I have spoken to some of the folks down there in that area, and they're not receiving complaints. I think if it's handled with care and handled properly, it can be done, and it can be done well. And I think that sort of highlights what was happening previously with the Poncho and Wong's and the On the Rocks, or the Chillers rather, and those establishments was no care for the community and no concern for the community. It was all about creating an environment to profit off of. We live in the area, we are vested in this area. We want to be good citizens.
Jeff, I think I read the letter from the citizen, and they were asking for outside entertainment to stop at 8:30, not inside. So if that helps.
I've seen a lot, and to speak to Jeff, being a good neighbor is a success or failure of a business. I would be happy to talk about operational plans or even coming back. The only thing I would want to prevent is thwarting, for example, a piano player playing in that interior patio of the 239 building, at 9 o'clock. So if you feel fit to add any conditions, I would say at least post-dinner service, give us a chance to establish the business and show that we can be good citizens, but I'll leave that to you guys. So thank you guys. We really appreciate potentially or asking for your guys' support. And just to be clear, the lease extension or the lease term length is key, just from the perspective of we don't want to do the project if we can't do it the right way. And those buildings are in fair disrepair at this point. So they're going to require a significant amount of capital, and we just need to make it work economically. So if you have any questions or follow up.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we do. I'll start just to tag on to the music. So did you guys talk about, acoustic outside after a certain hour, or? amplified in certain areas? Like, what are you thinking with respect to that?
Without talking about regulation, from a business plan perspective, the outdoor patio of 239 North Harbor Drive, which is the On the Rocks Chillers building, has a patio that has a 20-foot wall that separates it from back on Harbor Drive. And all of the music that we've done that supports beach life, for example, because we've had beach life fundraisers in there, you can't hear it from the parking lot. So I actually don't think it's even an issue from the perspective of we can build around it, and technology has solved most of these problems. But I completely understand old sentiment and not wanting to go back to where it used to be. I just don't want to be preemptively preventing this stuff. I mean,
Same for Rubies, or?
Rubies, we don't have any plans to do bands, it'd be ancillary guitar player type of stuff. I would be, I think, amenable to saying that Rubies is more of the food and operation side, while the other location would be more of the musically centric side.
Okay. And then did you talk to any of the neighbors, the hotels, the condos?
I mean, I'm in daily communication with all of the hotels, all of the neighbor associations. A lot of the neighbors have my cell phone number during the festival. Really proud to say, during the last festival, we had a total of 6 complaints and 1 arrest for a weekend of, music and community. That's fantastic. That's unheard of in the festival business.
I would say.
So I think everybody knows by now that they know where I am. They know how to get a hold of me, and
I know that there's also follow-up meetings after each event. One was held at the Slip. So all of the neighbors from the condos above are invited to come and give feedback. Did you hear noise? What issues cropped up, et cetera. So really proactive approach to making sure that we're being good citizens.
Thanks. Let's start at the end, Steve.
Thanks. Well, thank you. I know we talked about live music, but what about the piped music from radio or?
yeah, I mean, we would generally have music playing. But again, not to get tech geeky on you, but technology has solved most of this spray of sound. It's all called low dispersion technology, where it's very tight angles of sound that are designed to hit certain areas. And in fact, we had this issue come up with the festival. If any of you guys were at the Weezer concert, two festivals ago, you probably were thinking, why does it not sound as loud as a rock concert should sound? And it's because technology can create bubbles of sound. So,
well, I was kind of referring specifically to, well, what are your plans in terms of pipe music? Both sites would have it? Like
Yeah.
I mean, you're obviously not going to have live music all day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So
well,
you're
there'd be,
going to have pipe music most of the day.
absolutely.
correct?
Yeah, there'd be ancillary, restaurant music going on.
And at what points would you have live music? Would that be at any time of the day or usually most in the evening?
Generally, I mean, there's different use cases. I'll give you one that would surprise you. We just had a live event over at another one of our restaurants at 9:30 in the morning for the School of Rock so that little kids could play for their parents. Generally speaking, 5 to 9, 4 to 10-ish, right? This is not a live music venue, by the way. I might do a lot of music, but this is not designed to big bands coming in with half stacks and arrays. This is not the design of the business. Ancillary would be the key word here.
I see. So it sounds like you're planning to have pipe music at both locations throughout the day, right?
Correct.
Indoors and outdoors,
Correct.
if I'm hearing that right. And then live music largely sporadically.
Sporadically,
in the
event
evenings, early
driven,
evenings. Yeah.
close to the beach life. We'd have some philanthropic events, which we do, which we have been doing, things of that sort. It would not be a, music 6 nights a week type of thing. That's not
see.
the design of this.
And just, I guess, on the hours of operation, I know you talked about going to 12:30. Now, hours of operation meaning that's customer facing, correct?
Customer facing 12, business 12:30, meaning And oftentimes they solve this in a CUP, like there's no serving past 12 o'clock, right? So if a customer gets a drink at 11:40, he doesn't have to get kicked out at 12:01, right? So
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm referring to. So it only takes a half hour to clean up the restaurants?
well, when it's closed and your staff is cleaning up, that's not considered an operation.
Right, so the
All the
CUP
patrons
condition,
would be out.
right, I guess that's what I'm getting at. So the CUP condition here is referring to customer-facing operations.
Correct.
They might take you an hour or two to clean up afterwards, right?
Correct.
You're gonna
There'd be
shut down at
staff
12.
inside, yeah, doing checkouts and things of the
understand.
sort.
Okay. That's all I have, Leslie, thanks.
Thank you. Jim?
Yeah, so first off, I'm very supportive of this. I think this could be a kernel from which the revitalization of the harbor and pier really starts. And certainly you guys can do it faster than government can. So I'm very excited about this. I think, I agree. I think this would add an island of, not an island, but a level of connectiveness to connect the pier to your location and then to the northern part that would draw people in from both sides and have a reason for people to walk between. So I support it from that perspective. And I do think from an activation perspective. So you kind of hit three major, points of what we've been trying to improve in the harbor. And I am all for that. I'm a little concerned with the way the CUP is written right now. You've read the CUP. Are you asking us to change item 7, which says no amplified sound outdoors, basically?
I would have to, what does item 7 say?
It says in the event that an entertainment permit or permits are requested, conditions shall be placed which require all door panels and other door openings to be closed while amplified sound is taking place, and identifiable security personnel shall be stationed at the primary entrances and exits to supervise and control the activities of patrons and prevent noise and other disturbances.
And was that a proposed added?
I'm looking back, I'm looking at the staff report, and I am trying to find that condition because.
Condition 7 in both the CUPs.
Page 31 of the PDF,
Page 31.
page 4 of the resolution.
That's right. It's, yes, that's the present condition. So that would be what's in the CP.
Got it. Oversight, no, that's a nightclub restriction. And I know why it was put in place, and they're talking about security guys at the front door. When we're talking about full service restaurant and what we're doing, that condition almost seems non sequitur. So yeah, I didn't see that. That's my oversight. I thought we had talked about striking that condition.
Well, I'm a little concerned, and Antonio, maybe you can answer it. Do other restaurants down there, when they're playing bands, they have to get an entertainment permit each
Yes, they
time
do.
so they apply every Friday to bring a band into Notches?
Each time or yearly?
No, annually.
It's annually for an entertainment permit,
For certain days and stuff, okay.
or, yeah, for the year.
And what about like piping, would piping in music, playing music, whatever you want to call it, on the patios, would that be included in
No, I
this?
think it's just for live entertainment and amplified music.
This just says amplified sound, which certainly, you have a speaker out there, that's amplified sound. So I think we need to tackle 7 to accommodate both.
The entertainment is usually for live music, so it's very specific to live music, live entertainment.
So in other words, if you go to the grocery store, they don't need to have an entertainment permit to
Right.
put music inside the grocery store. It's sort of.
No, well, I'm not talking inside, it's outside.
There's also same thing occurs outside, right? So whether you go to Trader Joe's in the Riviera, they'll have a speaker out front and inside, or even Quality Seafood or Captain Kids. Captain Kids has outdoor, indoor music, ambient music to
Hotels.
sort of
So I
work your way into the business.
I think we have to tackle this
I
one.
think you're right definitionally, and I think one could say amplified music means a speaker playing radio. That seems just completely off base to me, and it feels like that paragraph was written specifically for nightclub use and specifically around live music. So I would propose that we would, that we amend that condition to reflect the actual.
Do you have a recommendation, or do you want to sit down and write something up while we conduct the rest of the meeting and
I could
come back with the
definitely do that.
recommendation? Because I'd hate to craft it from our end when you guys are the professionals.
Yeah,
I think
I mean,
you
what I would
understand the
say-
concern, we don't want the condos above to hear sound, and I think technology-wise, you can specify a dB level or something like that, and write this so it's more in line with your.
If I was a planner in a different life, what I would do is I would strike that condition and I would simply say, if we want to apply for an entertainment permit, which covers all live music, we can do that, right? But otherwise, unless
Okay.
unless the commission sees fit, regulating a speaker playing music on to a dinner crowd seems
Well, we did do
unnecessary.
that to a school about sound on their balcony, so.
Yeah.
So I at least want to address it since it's not in here.
Got it.
Mayor Light, I just want to point out that the four resolutions all included conditions that restricted the use of electronically generated sound or music in the patios and the exteriors. And so those are the conditions that the applicant has specifically requested be stricken. And so this was, again, more standard for entertainment permits for live
Okay,
entertainment.
so you're okay with patio sound?
Right.
Okay, which Ruby's
Yeah.
played.
Yes, but there's very specific conditions in the CUP now that prevent that. And so that's the request from the applicant, is to strike those existing conditions that restrict the sound in the
Okay,
patios.
and I can
Right,
read
but
7 that it's just for entertainment permits, because that's how it opens.
Yeah, I mean, I think we understand that, but it seems like it's been replaced with 7,
Right.
which is allowing it under these conditions. And it's kind of 2 parts. The second part is staffing security personnel. I'm thinking we can tackle this in two parts. Maybe we can all agree we don't need to staff security personnel. And the first part is closing door panels and openings.
My recommendation is, that we strike anything to do with entertainment permits, because those could have the conditions for the actual entertainment, and that we allow, and for security as well, and that we just put in something allowing the patio music.
Or just not disallowing it.
Or you
We're not
could just,
disallowing, which it doesn't if we just
Doesn't
strike this.
disallow if we
right, you could
strike
just
it.
strike the
Okay,
condition.
okay, so just strike 7 and let the entertainment permits take care of it. Are you okay with that, Anthony?
That's fine.
Okay, and you heard my concern about the SUPs and stuff like that, and we talked about that when we met. So what's your recommendation there?
My recommendation would be that we, if we in fact ever went down that road, that we would be required to comply with any and all safety regulation, any and all regulation that the city requires. Neither of us, I mean, we're family guys that run away from liability, and I can see that on the wall. That's not the point or the,
Would you, I'm sorry for interrupting
yeah,
you.
no problem.
Would you be okay if we just push that off the table for tonight and you come back? It would make you come back if you wanted to do the ancillary use?
If the SUP part is the prickly bear, how about excluding SUP, being okay
Well, it
with
could be
some
kayaks,
level of
whatever you want.
equipment rental, right? Beach chair, or
Non-watercraft.
I just want to be able to explore this idea of,
Yeah, and I don't want to stop you. I just want to make sure it's a level playing field. And we have complaints from boaters in the harbor that SUPers don't know what they're doing, and certainly don't want you to be part of, the problem there.
Storage is different though, right?
Pardon?
Storage is different. Storage.
So,
yeah,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but maybe, can I help with SUPs a little bit?
Yes.
If I can take the floor from you momentarily. I looked at my notes from that meeting. It was May of 2021. I looked at the minutes and agenda of that meeting. And specifically what there is a lot that the city says in the temporary use permit, which we put on Olympus and anybody else coming in temporarily. I don't think we have anything on a fixed base operator like Paddle House. We only have something in the temporary use
Well, that's because
permit.
it was pre this commission.
So I think it would be appropriate if we, this commission, want to have something on paddle boards, it should be a level playing field. We could ask them to look at the temporary use permit. The temporary use permit says you ought to have insurance. I bet you would.
We actually first tackled it in May 2018. I look back on the minutes. of
Before my
that,
time.
so.
Okay. All right. There may be more further back there, but what I found was only in the temporary use permit, which wouldn't necessarily apply to them. There are rules on the whole harbor. You have to have a life preserver, and there is safety signage on the hand launch dock. So there's at least that as a safety net.
Yeah, I just don't want to tie up this approval with going, because that could be.
I don't either, and I
unto
think we're
itself.
opening a separate can of worms because I don't think we have anything on Paddle House. I could be wrong.
No, you may be right, because we did, that was before, that was
So I
pre-existing.
think we have something on
But
Olympus,
we
but
did
not
talk
on
about in May
fixed-base operators.
2018 that we should go back and address it with all the brick and mortar too.
So
which-
I would recommend, I'm agreeing with you in a very long-winded fashion that we should table subs.
Okay, good.
Sub-rental.
Or other, watercraft rental, paddlecraft rental, kayaks. What's in the
Watercraft in
TUP is all about, have a good instructor, have
Yeah, I just
liability.
meant, they
Training.
mentioned lockers, like if you want to hey, drop your board off while you get something to eat. Like, are we allowed?
I don't think we should regulate that. If you got your private
Right.
board, you want to go in and eat. and-
Rental.
Yeah. So anything
I
else on that?
apologize.
Can I
No,
have
sorry.
the floor back?
Yes.
Let's see, I'm glad you're okay with keeping the coral trees, but does that really impact you, or you think you can work around that?
I think we can. That area is meant to be greenery. Right?
Okay.
That's, place for kids to play. It's a connective tissue for the two buildings. So I think we could work around that, and I'd be happy to try to do that.
I'm very pleased that you brought up the affordability, because, that's one of the Coastal Commission criteria for businesses down there, and certainly tied to the Seaside Lagoon, since about 70% of the users are not from, Redondo Beach. And so the affordability has always been an attraction for that. So I'm pleased to hear that. And I love Santa Maria style barbecue. So I'm all good with that. Unfortunately, we don't impact lease term. That's between you and the city. I'm all for giving you a longer lease term because of the investment you have to put in to do this right, but that's not our purview. But, I would certainly encourage our councilman to consider that request strongly. So I think that's all my stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll just work down the line.
I just want to make the comment that, and this is no disparaging comments to you two. I think you're great members of the community. You brought so much to the harbor area and Redondo Beach as a whole. We do have to remember, though, that CUPs go with the property. And one of the recurring things that gets talked about with regards to any business asking for a CUP or modification or change or whatever is that whatever's decided upon stays with that property long after you've left. And so I just throw that out there, that we have to kind of be cognizant that any things we allow in the CUP are going to be with the property until who knows when, right? Which kind of made me wonder, under what circumstances then do you start fresh with a brand new CUP? A whole new type of business that's a different zoning, or?
There's different scenarios where that could happen, where let's say there's an intensification of use or a complete change of use. Let's say, if they weren't intending to use either one of these buildings as restaurants and came in with something else, that would trigger a new CUP. Another reason to reconsider the CUP is if the use becomes a nuisance and there's problems that can't be fixed, then we would typically have a revocation hearing where you could impose more conditions on the use.
Yeah, I've sat through one of those before. Okay, I just was throwing it out there, and part of the other reason why I bring that up is when we talk about the brick and mortar SUP places, and we don't have anything in place on them at this point with their SUPs. The counterpoint to that is it's like building codes. When somebody comes in to do an expansion or an addition or whatnot, you then push them to meet all the current building codes. Their next door neighbor may not meet half of the building codes, but it doesn't matter. So when we're looking at the CUP here, we really want to make sure that we're putting in what we want going forward for the future, and kind of without regard to what their neighbor may or may not have. So I just throw that out there from a mindset when we look at CUPs. Thanks.
Thanks. Okay. Couple questions and comments. On music and entertainment, I understand that that's a council level permit. I'd want to make sure, we kind of discussed this last month when Project Barley came here. I'd want to be certain that we were being consistent with other leases in the neighborhood with regard to hours, the way we permit music, and the way we handle noise complaints in music. Greg, I don't know if you're still out there in cyberspace, but do you have any comment on what hours of operation are in other businesses nearby and hours of music, amplified or otherwise?
Yes, on both questions. I'm still here and I have a comment. Typically, Antonio's right. It's about midnight. Last call at midnight. Everyone gets out by 12:30, and however long it takes the business to shut down after that, in terms of employees leaving, it could be 1:30, just depending. The important thing is that it's closed down and they're not serving anymore. I do think it's a good approach to kind of allow the outdoor music question to kind of be handled by the permit itself at the city council level. If there is any, issues or concerns regarding, the late night of it, you could always put a condition of approval that requires the applicant to come back in 6 months and just report on any complaints. That's always a fallback you can do, just to kind of give the opportunity to the applicant to kind of prove that they are going to be a good player. Up to you guys, though. There's a couple ways you can skin this cat.
Would we do that here, or would we do that at a city council yearly entertainment permit? Or would we recommend that the city council do that? Okay.
You would do that here. You would say,
okay,
we're going to allow the entertainment permit to kind of dictate, what we're talking about in terms of closure time and outdoor music. But you can also require the applicant to come back in 6 months or 8 months or a year to report back on how things are going. You can then, pull any kind of police department records for noise violations or code enforcement violations, and essentially, give them a permanent kind of okay that music isn't a concern anymore. Or you can produce additional conditions that further limit them. And then that further limits future entertainment permits as well, because the CUP kind of trumps all that.
okay, thanks. Is there any way I can get that on the people that live behind me at my house? Okay. So back to you guys. You're familiar with the amenities plan, and maybe not everybody read all the surveys and so forth. The first survey we did, we got feedback from residents saying they really wish they could use Seaside Lagoon year-round, in particular get access without having to pay or get inside the fence. And kind of similar to what you said, like, you look at that fence and you see nothing going on in there for, 7 or 8 months of the year. It hurts. So, how do you see yourselves providing that? And in particular, do you see yourselves blocking any operation of the hand launch when you're not open? Do you think you're adding any footprint there that would affect the area outside your operating hours? I'm thinking of, the guy coming down at 6 a.m. to launch a 150-pound fishing kayak.
Want to take that?
Well, I on the first part, I think that we help to activate the lagoon for those folks that you mentioned, whatever ends up happening there, whether there ends up being, a swimming pool or not, or any other water feature or any change to the existing water feature. I think that we, for the year-round person, would be able to provide that. We anticipate having towels and showers and things like that people could use if they're using our facility, and also being, open to whatever ends up working out with that plan. Regarding the paddlecraft or the person that is coming down, I do know that the plan called for the promenade, the access road, to go all the way through one way, so people can still use that to drop off their potentially 150-pound sea kayak or SUP. We would like to connect our property to the lagoon so that there's one fence instead of two fences, connecting, allowing there to be access from the property to the lagoon, either in the summer months when the lagoon is open and functional. I think it's synergistic to have people using the facilities as they like. If they'd like to come in and explore, what we're doing halfway through their day at the lagoon and go back to the lagoon, it would be a lot easier that way. And also for events. So if there is an event, there's a retractable fence that can be open so people can then use the lagoon during an event that's been permitted by the city. With that, looking at the amenities plan, there still remains access to the hand launch by both the promenade and the walkway around the California Surf Club. And depending on what happens with the lagoon specifically, there may or may not be additional access.
Yeah, just one, the exciting part about this project, the part I got really fired up about, is I'm watching the lagoon for 9 months a year with nobody in it. And every weekend I'm going, man, this would be fun to do. Beach Life just had a flag football tournament down there, right? 100 people just came down and used the sand. It was like the perfect place to do it, right? And so building this, I think it's almost like build it and they will come, but we're building some infrastructure into it, right? So I actually see, and we didn't put this in our projections because it's all forecasting, but I actually see a lot of people renting the lagoon based on some of the infrastructure upgrades we do and increase of amenities, right? So increase event fee, $1,500 a day, increase parking, which we all know is empty all the time. Those are all things that are exciting next steps. I don't want to lock them up in tonight's meeting because I think there's a million conversations that can segue from it. But I do think as a vision piece, I would be remiss to say that I don't think about that all the time, doing fun ancillary events in there.
There's a lot of private events in the lagoon. Would you be able to, cater to those or support those, or is there anything?
Absolutely, we would be able to.
Yeah.
Yeah, the kitchen at Ruby's is large. We fully expect to keep it that way so that we can handle events at the lagoon as well as the restaurant operations.
Excuse me, Chair Curzon and Commissioner Carlson, I think we're veering a little bit outside of what was agendized for tonight's meeting, which is very strictly the modification of the 2 CUPs for the restaurants. I think when we start talking about the operations of Seaside Lagoon and those types of things, those kind of fall outside the purview of what you're looking at tonight. Anything that would happen, any changes to the operations of Seaside Lagoon would require a conditional use permit as well. That's not under consideration tonight. Just wanted to kind of refocus the discussion.
Thanks for bringing us back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that yellow band of taking over the sidewalk, that's not part of this tonight. Thank you.
Right.
Fair enough. Thanks. Yeah, it's always fun to get into the weeds in the future and other plans. Hopefully my last question is still on topic. In the SWA survey, they did a careful analysis of the state of those buildings. It sounds like you have as well, but you're aware of the analysis they did on condition and roof and so forth, and those are repairs you guys plan?
I haven't seen the SWA analysis. I've thoroughly examined the buildings myself with my construction team, so I'm very aware of the state of the buildings.
Okay. All right, thanks. No other questions?
Yeah, you briefly, for the public, you briefly touched on why you're asking for an enlargement of the lease line. Could you reiterate that so people understand why? I understand why, but
Sure. It's part of the lease negotiation that will happen with the city council, but we wanted to make it public information from the perspective of, we believe that these businesses should abut the Seaside Lagoon to add infrastructure to it. And when I talk about infrastructure, I always use examples are the best. If somebody wants to rent the lagoon right now, they're bringing in a generator. We would have temporary power permanent power, but usable inside the lagoon. And people would be able to use our facilities, bathrooms, accessibility, food, beverage, all that, without bringing in all that temporary infrastructure.
Right.
So
Thank you.
That is the goal, yeah.
thank you. That clarifies, I'm sure, for a lot of people. That's all I have. Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Nope, thanks.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for your time. Thanks for your time.
So now we'll go to public comment on this topic.
Almost didn't recognize you.
No. I'm jealous of your beard. Good evening, Commission. My name is Keith Kaufman. I have the pleasure of coming back as a retiree from this city, and I'm still staying in touch with what's happening, and because I care and because I live here. I'm one of the few that can say that I was born in Redondo Beach back when we used to have a hospital, and I too have the stories of going to the lagoon and visiting the area when I was a kid, jumping off the diving boards, and I particularly remember grabbing the sea slugs off the wall. Thought that was great. We won't talk about my experience with chillers back in the day, but I do know a lot about the area, and I kind of stopped going. There wasn't really a lot of reason for me in the last few years to go there. And then enter Alan Sanford in the scene, and I have a meeting with him. And one of the things I want to express is I don't know that there was anybody more skeptical than myself about some of Alan's vision for down in that area, and namely his vision for the Beach Life Festival. But I was very pleased to be a part of that and see how much of a partner he was to the community, and see how flexible he was with especially public safety concerns, which I think kind of rise to the top when you talk about doing anything new, especially when it involves a lot of people. And we've all seen over the past few years, I think close to 5 now, that his understanding of community and relationship with Redondo Beach and its history and its culture is very much in line. At the first Beach Life Festival, I kind of stood by the gate and was greeting people as they would come in, and it was like a reunion for me. It was like a reunion of the South Bay. There was even an instance I remember with him bringing a very kind of unknown local band, and on the really small stage, kind of one of the first shows early in the day, when most people wouldn't attend. And I was shocked by when I went over there and saw, my God, this is the who's who of the South Bay here. And I even called him on his cell phone. I said, you got to get over here and see this band. And I tell you these little things because he understands the city, he understands the culture, and he understands why we need to keep some of that, but he also understands progress. So we've got to do something. We've got to start somewhere. If you can point out somebody better than Alan and Jeff to put together a vision and a project to be the seed for what comes in the future, whatever that may be, I'd like to meet that person. They probably would too. So I just want to come here, and it sounds like you guys are very supportive, and that's incredible, and I appreciate that. And I hope that in your discussions with council and the recommendations that you send, that we send a strong message that we really want to see some activation down there. And this seems like an incredible opportunity and idea. So thank you very much for your support, and hope to go down there soon and visit the surf club. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you need the timer back up?
7:55. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Michael Greenberg. I am the president and co-founder of Skechers and proud partner of Allen's. And I do a lot of work within the community. I've been a part of the community since 1988. And I do a lot of public-private partnerships. And I'll talk about just a couple, one of them being the Manhattan Beach fireworks. I've been putting that on with my partner there for 25 years. I reimagined the Roundhouse Aquarium several years ago in Manhattan Beach. We put on the Skechers Peer-to-Peer Friendship Walk, which is wonderful. And I was just told that we raised a little over $3.1 million. And since we founded that walk, we've raised, I believe, about just shy of $2 million that went back to Redondo Beach Unified. So all good partnerships. We also are building a new school. I don't know if you guys are aware, but we're building a friendship campus that's 55,000 square feet in Redondo Beach. And today, I spoke to Alan, and he asked me to come down and speak on his behalf. And I love, to do other things than just be a shoe cobbler. And one of them is to find great partners to work with. And I've known Alan for many years. And when he came and we met, we talked about his idea about beach life. And I really just, am I out of time or am okay?
You're out of time.
Yeah.
Am I? Okay.
Motion to extend?
I'll just wrap it up.
Approve.
Approve.
Oh, go ahead. Okay. I'm sorry about that. I just noticed the clock. Anyhow, there's nobody I'd rather be in business with than Alan, and he is just tremendous. I know he's got tremendous respect for the South Bay. He's a great operator. And like I heard somebody say, there was not a single arrest at Beach Life when we threw the first festival, which is really unheard of. So I hope you guys support Alan the way many of us do. I think you do. And that's it. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commission. My name is Dave Bernier, and I'm with the Redondo Beach Skate Park, soon to be coming to the pier. I'm sure you guys know, but we should be breaking ground the next month or so. And with what we're doing and with Alan and Jefferson, we're just excited to be part of that growth, and what they're doing dovetails so well with what we want to bring to the pier. So we're extremely excited about being neighbors and what that all is going to mean for the revitalization of the pier. And I just think it's a tremendous project, and we're fully supportive of it and can't wait to go skating at the pier, go to the surf club, go to Naja's, go to seafood, get some seafood. It's just that revitalization of the pier that we so desperately need. We're super excited about it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rachel Marinus from the Slip Bar, and I've also been a part of the community for over 25 years. I thought what I was planning to say was going to be a unique perspective tonight, saying that if you're going to have somebody revitalize this area, you couldn't pick two better people. But now I see that that's pretty much the common perception. You've seen what they've done for the area, and I think they're great. So I'll speak to another point that came up. I hope that you won't limit them too much on what we're allowing them to do. I think Greg had a great idea to allow them to proceed with the revisions that they're suggesting as far as noise and what they're planning to do, and then have them come back if it doesn't work out or if there are complaints, because we are asking them to put a lot of money and time into this project. And just to say preemptively that, oh, it's going to be too loud, I think is presumptive. There's a giant parking lot, an empty building, two streets before you get to the first house. And as Alan pointed out, there's been a lot of changes in the technology since those CUPs were put into place. I'm a Chillers alumni, and I'll tell you that, I mean, listen to all of us. We've had so much fun there, and we talk about it. It is silly. We're all different now. I think the community is a lot more family-based. So it would be amazing to give kids the opportunity and families the opportunity to come back 25 years from now and talk about how they had fun growing up there. So I hope you'll let them go forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello all, my name is Brenton Rieger from Project Barley. I saw most of you a while back. I will say that I think that was my band that he was talking about that played on that little stage. We packed the place, that was the first Beach Life. Alan graciously invited us to play that year, and it was pretty amazing. I've actually known him for maybe 15 years or so, and everything he touches seems to be amazing. Beach Life, all of us went, is he gonna be able to do this? And the first one, and everyone after has just been unbelievable. Whether it's staffing and organization and building it out, tearing it down, all that stuff has been amazing. I live right up the street on Barrel, and you can hear a little bit, but not much. But when you're standing right there and everything that's coming at you is just so loud, and to not even really be able to hear it up there is pretty awesome. I also am a Chillers alumni, class of '94. My band actually played on the rocks there for 10 years, every Sunday for almost pretty much 10 years. We played on the back patio. I didn't know they weren't allowed to have amplified music though. But that's actually a testament because nobody ever called, nobody ever complained, and we played there with a full band for 10 years. There is technology to do piped music, directed out towards the ocean. And I mean, you walk by Shade, and as you ride your bike, you hear it just a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there. It's immersive, but it's not loud. So we're right down the way from them. I'd love to bring my kids down. I feel like I'm starting to be able to do that with Project Barley there. It'd be really cool to be able to have something even bigger, larger scale, and just be a really cool place to come down and hang out with the families. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Julie Call, Executive Director of Waterfront Education. I've fully recovered from Boat Parade. It was beautiful. It was a great thing. I do want to support this effort. As some of you know, we are moments away from moving to the south part of the harbor with our operation, and we're working on a larger scale Ocean Science Center in that very same area. We have a STEM Fest, our first spring STEM festival that's going to be occurring April 15th, and there is a need for restaurants and additional amenities because the Seaside Lagoon it's tough, right now. We're trying to do some other things with swimming classes and things like that. We do have a large population of homeschoolers that come Monday through Friday. So many of those families do stay down in the harbor because they travel and are not from Redondo. So when they're coming from Lancaster in the valley and even from Maria del Rey, they need places to stay and hang out. I have talked to a couple of you on the phone. You probably didn't know it. I think it's really wonderful that we're working together as a community to revitalize that area. We've done classes for years there, and there's been some challenges for sure. So just want to say thank you to everyone. It's a joint effort for sure, all the way from the planning to implementation, from city staff to those of us who are enthusiasts and go-getters out there. So thank you, everybody, in full support.
Thank you.
Good evening, all. I'm Joe Smith with Project Barley. Again, we saw you a couple last month. Thank you. My goal when I got involved with what we're doing down at the waterfront was really to work with the people that were down there to start driving people down there. And the folks from the Slip, Randy, Rachel, Carlos, have all become very personal, close friends of mine. I've gotten to know Jeff over the time. I don't know Alan very well, but I do know that I've been going to Beach Life since it started. I too was one of those that said, oh my goodness, this thing's gonna be nuts. The first one, it pulled off great. The second one was amazing. Beach Life Ranch was killer. We've had good partnerships with Beach Life. doing promos, events with them. We were part of the flag football thing that he did just a couple weeks ago, and that was a ton of fun. We had a Project Barley team and had our whole crew came out screaming and yelling. It was just a great use of the space. It was super fun.
Who won?
Pardon me?
Who won?
A bunch of stud kids, man, that should have been playing pros. I'll tell you, we had some guys that just we threw together that were our customers, and we put some Project Barley shirts on them and let them go out and have some fun. But and then just Jeff has been just an amazing partner of ours. He's been a great guy. Everything that I've learned about him and working with him, I support him in this movement. We want to drive people down there. I live Hermosa Beach, but I go by that pier all the time, and it's so vibrant. There's so much going on all the time, and we have such a more awesome space down here. And, you know, the more people we can drive down here, the more people we can get on bikes, the more people that we can get skateboarding down, the more people, it can just really bring that whole area back to life. And so we're in support of it, and looking forward to what the future holds. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark Hansen, a proud member of the King Harbor Public Amenities Plan Working Group. I want to start out by thanking the applicants and staff for delaying the CUP until we pass that important milestone of City Council approving the concepts for the amenities plan. This is the appropriate time. There was a time when some of us were a little concerned that City Council was already talking about those leaseholds, and we thought maybe we were a little out of sequence. So this is great to be back in a perfect sequence in what we're doing. It was absolutely great to have Jeff Jones on the working group because he was there for a year. He knows intimately everything that's being planned for the spacing, exactly how their project could work in with that. I want to provide one kind of high level comment. Over the past couple decades that I've served on various of these harbor groups, one of the lingering things that a lot of voters have commented on is that we have a lack of informal, high-quality food service in the harbor. We've got a lot of great fine dining. It's always easy to get some cheap food, but I can tell you as I go up and down the coast, which I do a lot to the other harbors, I can by name talk about the restaurants where boaters go in Long Beach and San Diego and Santa Barbara, and we've kind of been missing that here, a place where you can get good food but feel okay going in your shorts and t-shirts after boating. This, I think, is going to be the perfect match for that. Final item I want to mention is that as soon as I saw the CUP, I sent out a fairly wide distribution for the boaters. I spent some hours boiling that CUP modifications down to 1.5 pages so that the boaters and harbor folks could read it very quickly. And I mean, I almost felt like I was asking for trouble because I'm showing how much the hours are going to change and the alcohol and so forth. I got nothing, no negatives back whatsoever. I double checked the e-comments right before I came in here, no negative comments. You know, the closest voters are Port Royal and Portofino, and I specifically targeted them. I got nothing negative back. So I think this is a great next step in the revitalization of our harbor. Thanks for everybody's hard work on this.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commission. My name is Jonathan Nixick. I'm a local resident and not Schiller's alumni. I was the creeper on the outside, always looking in, wanting to get into that cool party. But, you know, a 10-year-old with a fake ID, I don't know if that would really work. I'm here tonight just to basically say and support both of these guys. I've known them for quite some time. I know Alan from my days at Anheuser-Busch. I worked there for over 10 years. And as Alan basically kept growing and opening new businesses, we sort of partnered with him and helped support his efforts in opening the restaurants in all cities, Manhattan, Hermosa, Redondo. I currently sort of stepped away from Anheuser-Busch and now work as a commercial fisherman down here in the harbor and got the great pleasure of dealing with Quality Seafood and Jeff here. And I could not honestly say he's an amazing person. I've known basically a lot of different business people growing up, but I've never seen anyone sort of intermingle themselves with all the other businesses, whether it's a slip bar, Barley Project. he's always out. When you're walking by, he's not just a guy that sits in an office. He's constantly trying to figure out, hey, how can we do something better for your business? It's definitely a group effort. So with both of these guys, I think it's an atomic bomb, and they're just going to kill it. So that's why I'm here tonight, to support them and in their efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that covers everyone in the audience. Do we have someone on Zoom?
We do not have any comments on Zoom.
All right, thank you.
Move to close the public hearing?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, so just internal deliberation. Just a couple things I've noted that we've talked about striking resolution 7 in both. Matt, you brought up some of the old resolutions that maybe aren't applicable, but maybe there's some that we might want to talk about keeping because the CUPs continue on. I think that's what you were hinting at possibly. We touched on how it just mentions restaurant and how we might want to modify that to speak to the amenities. And we touched on nope, we already covered that. Those are the notes I had. Does anyone want to start?
So I'd like, I actually have 3 motions, if you'll let me make all 3, and then you guys can decide what you want to do with them. The first is to approve the exemption and the CUP resolution with the following changes, delete item 7 in both of them, and to add for both of them that and I don't know the proper wording, but basically need to come back for any watercraft rental or loan.
Or what?
Or loan, because they talked about potentially just loaning boards out. So I don't want to just say rental and then.
You said boat or watercraft?
I said watercraft, in case it's kayaks or.
Sure.
And I intentionally am avoiding talking about temporarily storing, your board there while you partake at the, of the facilities. So that's my first resolution. My second is to keep the coral trees, retain the coral trees in the build out, because that's not part of the CUP. That would be a separate action. And then the third is to send a message to council that we strongly back this activity, and we ask them to consider extended lease terms because of the investment. So those are the 3, and let up to you guys on whether you want to second it or modify it or discuss it.
Well, if it's 3 separate motions, you need 3 separate seconds.
Yes, I know.
And then you need 3 separate discussions.
Okay,
And
you
3
want me to do
separate
one at a
votes.
time?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first one is approve the CUP exemption, the exemption and the CUP with the following changes, delete item 7 out of both of them, because they're 2 separate CUPs, and in both of them add that you have to come back for any kind of watercraft rental or loan active ancillary use.
Don't we have to address the proposed conditions though as well? Right, the planning director, you have proposed conditions here.
I'm basically saying approve the resolution as written with the
Right, so-
exceptions of the 2 items.
Yeah, I was just going to make one suggestion for the first resolution, which is dealing with the 239 building, that in the first condition that we add the operation of a restaurant with ancillary rental activities, but then further specify in a new condition that rental of watercraft activities shall be prohibited unless they're.
Okay, that's better
'cause then
word.
bicycles are-
Rental or loan.
Right, okay. So rental or loan of any watercraft equipment shall be prohibited unless modified by this body. So that's just that was my recommendation for 239 because the plans do specify and the elevations show that they would have
Accept the friendly
different
amendment by
types of
staff.
Yes.
activities. So I appreciate that.
Could I chime in on the friendly amendment?
Could I say that we make watercraft rental be consistent with other watercraft rental in the harbor so that if we,
Well, that wouldn't be in a CUP.
Well, that actually would be in the CUP.
Make it
because,
consistent?
I'd
I'd rather just see them come back.
I'd rather not make them come back if we have something that's standing that's already
I see
good,
what- I get the difference.
Right.
so that we're consistent, so that
But
we can look at what we already have, and if it's
Inconsistent right
good,
now.
we're done.
I would question doing it that way because, as I stated before, you've got brick and mortars that have CUPs right now that are renting watercraft out, and I don't believe we can arbitrarily, correct me if I'm wrong, change their CUPs. I don't know, maybe we can. In short, we brought it up earlier where the restrictions that we put, or the restrictions isn't a good word, the requirements to have insurance, the requirements to have those other things, we put on the temporary coming in who are requesting permits. We didn't put it on the brick and mortars, correct?
We don't.
Commissioner Kilroyce, I think Commissioner Light had expressed this, and I wanted to go ahead and reiterate that the brick and mortars are grandfathered uses without CUPs. And so there's no restrictions on their operations.
Exactly. And so to sit there and phrase a condition in here that made their SUP rentals or watercraft rentals consistent with other places in the harbor doesn't really seem to really get where we want to go. Because right off the bat, you've got two different situations of rentals in the harbor. You've got the temporary operators and you've got the permanent operators, and they're not operating under the same set of conditions.
That's correct.
So I would be against that language in here for that reason, because you don't have an apples to apples comparison.
Right, so I think I just kind of want to bring it back again to the discussion is the request to allow the activity, the rental of activity equipment. And so if you wanted to prohibit a specific type of equipment, you can write that into the conditional use permit, because they are requesting this ancillary use to be part of the building. That's reflected in the plans. So either you're going to allow it without conditions, or you're going to put specific restrictions on it.
Do you accept the friendly amendment?
I thought you changed.
I'll withdraw my comment on being consistent with others, and let's go back to his restricting it until we address it.
You can always do that way.
Yeah, I don't mind about
That's
the other
something that-
ancillary uses, just the watercraft. That's why I specified watercraft.
If there's a specific concern with watercraft, I think this would be the appropriate forum to restrict it.
Okay.
Okay.
I had some questions about some of the old conditions that they wanted to strike, that don't specifically apply, but that we want to historically keep in there. So wondering, I don't have a page number handy, but the first one was in the Harbor Commission 20, Condition 8.
We have a motion on the table.
Just have it a separate one.
Her question could turn into a modification.
It could turn into a
motion.
friendly.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Right, so this is the condition that is addressing
can
the
pull these
access
up.
road and the flood control district manhole, is that correct?
Yes. While there's no addition planned here, I think that, why wouldn't we keep that condition but just change it to that any addition? So there's no addition planned, but for future, right? And that any addition protect that manhole and what is stated in that condition 8.
Chair, if the applicant was intending on doing any types of additions, there are some, there isn't the ability to allow up to, I want to say 500 square feet in size. It's subject to review administratively by the Waterfront and Economic Development Director. So there's that unless he refers it to the Harbor Commission. So there's some safeguards there. That's not on the table tonight. And so we thought that it was inconsequential to remove that condition because it's not, they're not looking to expand the building.
I guess I don't understand why it was in the Harbor Commission 20 to begin with, because that wasn't intending to go on that space anyhow. So
there was
that should just suggest it's a very important thing, and it's just to aid staff to not forget about it. Or
right. It was when the original CUP came before the Harbor Commission and City Council as for conceptual approval, and so they wanted to make sure that any of those facilities were not impacted because they didn't have a final design. The final designs actually came afterwards.
okay, so the city thinks it's fine to not have this memory of protecting that manhole and the.
For the purposes of this, I mean, you could go either way. You can keep it in as a
But I'm
safeguard.
talking 15 years from now,
Right.
the continuing on CUP, do we not want to, does it not make sense to keep that?
It could be either way. It could, whatever the pleasure of the commission is. If you feel strongly about the manhole, I could show you where the manhole is. It's,
Yeah, I saw it. And
okay.
whatever, I don't have 20 in front of me, whatever else 20 called for. I mean, condition 8, sorry.
It's not in the pedestrian pathway though. It's actually in the vehicular right of way.
It's kind of on the corner, right? Does anyone have any opinion on that one?
I think if they were to block it, they'd be outside their leased area.
Yes, that's correct, Commissioner Carlson.
Sorry, I don't have.
I think it's at the intersection, isn't it, of this current sidewalk and the road? Like it's more on the sidewalk side?
It's south of the building.
South of the building. Okay, I was looking at the wrong manhole then.
That's not a manhole.
Okay. Any other opinions on that one?
No.
Okay. Okay. And then I had a couple questions on the Rubies one, Harbor Commission 50. So there's a bunch of them that want to be stricken related to like the snack bar, 6 and 7 are related to the snack bar and privilege, and condition 9. Are those removed because those would then be considered as in part of the lease, not the CUP?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's more appropriate to address those items in the lease agreement, not in the use permit.
Okay. And then we kind of briefly talked about, or Greg mentioned we could bring them back in 6 months, and maybe that's 6 months from when an entertainment permit is granted, but for a 6-month noise review, and that was actually an existing condition 6. So I don't know if anyone wanted to bring that, to retain that, or agree to strike that.
So
Yes.
I'm a little
Jamie.
concerned about saying 6 months because we don't know when this would be complete.
Yeah, it would have to be like 6 months from when they get their permit.
And we can always bring it back if there's complaints.
If there's a
about-
problem.
About the CUP or something.
Yeah.
So I prefer just leave it open-ended. If we hear bad things, then we can
Mhm.
ask to revisit it. Or staff can have.
That's one of the ways that it's been addressed in the past, is if there are verifiable complaints, that the item be returned back for reconsideration by the Harbor Commission.
We could address that one on your third motion where we suggest to council that we support this and we recommend they handle music through the normal entertainment permit process. But to address residents' concerns, we suggest the council bring them back after 6 months of operation. That's where I would put that if we want to. And again, just a suggestion and a friendly amendment to a motion we're not even talking about yet.
Yeah, that's the third one.
Yeah.
Fourth motion, I think.
I should have asked the applicants when they're up here. In your, in the resolution for On the Rocks, it says in 12 and 13, all hours of the patio's operation, entry to the patio area, but the drawings don't say, they don't identify patio, it just identifies outdoor customer areas. And I guess the first question is, do we need to change patio to reflect the same terms that are used in the application? And do we need to then identify which of the outdoor areas? Because I don't think you intended all three, for example, on the rocks, maybe just two.
It shows the floor plans.
It doesn't use the word patio.
Well,
So it talks about music at the patios and the hours of the patios, but do we need to clarify that?
Those are carried over from the prior conditions, and those were intended to address those outdoor dining areas, which are not changed for the 239 building. So the patio, whether it's a patio, whether it's outdoor customer area, I think they're all in reference to the same items.
So for On the Rocks, all three outdoor areas.
There are principally two outdoor areas, if I remember correctly. The large patio that's towards the north end of the building, and then the rear patio that's towards the west end of the building.
Well, there's a third one on page 75.
Skip to that.
And 13 says entry to these patio areas shall only be from within the restaurant. And I don't think that's your intention.
No, it's for the two, yeah.
I don't want to cause heartache for them by being too general there.
I agree. I think that third area is actually just an area, like a separate entry, not an actual like outdoor dining or patio area.
So what should that say instead? Because I don't, like 13 as it stands now is in opposition to their sketch. I think you're saying maybe it's supposed to say, I don't know what the directions are here, north and west patios?
Yeah, it would be the north and the west patios. That the existing exterior area to the south, it's not an actual outdoor dining area. It's just a transitional space leading
Currently,
into.
yeah.
You can kind of see that in the floor plan on page 77. There's no tables or chairs or anything there. Two palm trees.
Okay, so you're saying patio is sufficient because patio means there's chairs.
Tables and chairs, yes.
I can go with that. Does that seem clear to everyone?
Yeah, and it's also covered by the areas labeled customer area.
Well, they all say customer area. What do you mean?
The side patio does not. That extra space you were worried about, so.
I think they're just making a distinction between front of house, back of house.
I would understand it to be outdoor customer areas being equivalent of patio.
So you're saying you don't think there's a problem with,
I don't.
which one is that? 13 about the entry.
I
Okay.
wouldn't think that would lead to a problem.
And the applicant's okay with how that's written? Alan? Jeff?
It's hard for us to follow without the diagram.
Yeah, I don't know if we can broadcast.
There's a cement pad south of the building, kind of outside the front door. People used to put dogs there.
At 239 to the right of the southerly front door, if you're looking at the front door.
This is what we're looking at here.
So on the right side, Currently, the resolution says entry to the patio area shall be only from within the restaurant. And I want to make sure that jives with your intention here, not causing heartache.
It's these entry areas here.
Got it. You're talking about that
Here.
top patio, and yes, in our drawings, we have an entrance coming in from the parking lot into that patio,
Right here.
so you would technically be correct. Because we wouldn't want to force people all the way around if we were doing an event on that patio. That was kind of a regal entrance.
Right.
Can I ask Alan to come to the mic?
Also, yeah. Thanks, Greg.
You may want
No
to
problem.
reopen the public hearing,
Oh,
accept testimony.
motion to reopen the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So
Motion carries.
you did catch language in there that technically we would like people to be able to enter that outdoor patio at the top side of the 239 from the parking lot, if possible. You could put restrictive language in there that nobody should exit that after a certain amount of time, after 9 p.m. or something of that sort. If you were in fact worried about noise or loitering, but I don't see that as being an issue.
And then the patio on the left, is there an entrance? There's no entrance into that. That's solely from within the restaurant.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's got an emergency exit, but that's no problem. That you enter that patio from within the restaurant.
I don't know. Is there any other questions for the applicant?
No.
Thank you.
So which item are you changing?
So I guess motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. So it seems like 13 on the rocks, we would strike that.
Which page?
Page 31 of the PDF. Page 4 of the resolution. It reads, entry to the patio area shall be only from within the restaurant unless fire safety or other building code provisions require a secondary means of egress from the area in the event of emergency.
Antonio, what's the purpose of that? I mean, coming from city staff, what was the
I think
thought?
the intention there was also prevention of noise and other loitering, other activities on the north end of the building. And so I think that's the reason why that was put in there. The applicant didn't request specifically to have this condition stricken, so that's why we carried it over. But we can always modify this or change this at the pleasure of the commission.
Strike it in.
Thank you.
Strike 13.
Strike 13.
One more question. Ruby's has resolution 16, which says, should continued and substantiated noise complaints or problems occur, the chief of police or the harbor commission may require modified patio dining hours and or additional windscreen or noise control mechanisms.
Sorry, what condition was that one again?
16 on Ruby's. And it doesn't exist on the rocks. And I just
That's
wanted
right.
to highlight that and make sure, or were we cool with that? Or did we want them to exist in both resolutions? They are obviously a different setup and noise carries differently from the two structures. And as applicants stated, different use cases too.
Yeah, well, certainly continued isn't correct.
Yeah, clearly that's in response to some problem
Yeah.
that happened a while ago.
At
Let's
Ruby's.
just strike 16.
I would strike 16.
It's pretty vague anyway. I can tell you, we had one noise complaint with regards to an auto detailing shop on Aviation many, many years ago. It took years to actually address it. It was pretty painful from the residents behind it. Were you here for that?
I was not.
Well, wouldn't that say to keep it?
What's that?
Wouldn't that say
No,
keep
the
it?
problem
Or you're
is,
just saying,
well, first of all, we ended up addressing it. It ended up getting taken care of regardless. I guess my problem with 16, if nothing else, is that it's so vague, continued and substantiated. Well, substantiated you could kind of see, but one person's complaint about noise, I mean, how do you numerically qualify that? And it can be addressed regardless. If noise complaints come in, there are ways to address it regardless of whether it's actually in the CUP or not.
Like we stated earlier, yeah. Okay. Then I would have a friendly amendment to strike condition 13 from
On the right.
the 239 Harbor Drive and strike 16 from 245.
Accept that. Should I restate it with all the?
You don't have to.
You don't
Okay, I'll have to.
You don't have to. I think we've got it.
Okay.
Conditions number 7 and
From
number, yeah, from both. 13 from 239 and 16 from 245.
And the
And
restriction on the rent.
on the watercraft.
Rental/loan of
Yeah,
watercraft.
rental and loan.
Yeah.
And additional condition to keep the coral trees, the landscaping.
Well, I was going to make that a separate one.
Okay, okay.
A separate motion.
So just for clarification, because there are so many pages here, we're approving page 37, correct? That is the current set of conditions
Yes.
for, okay, could you get rid of Sheraton Hotel on 13? Rooftop equipment shall not be visible to Seascape residents or Sheraton Hotel guests or tenants. I'm not sure if you want to have a name for it. Maybe it's an address because.
That was, right, that was what, it was in the resolution
At the time,
before.
I know.
Just to confirm, this motion's for both resolutions, Jim?
Yes.
Both.
Striking resolution 7 in both, resolution 13 in both, 16, striking resolution 16 from 245. And then modifying, I'm assuming it's resolution 1 to add restaurant with ancillary activities, but rental or loans of watercraft shall be prohibited.
Then I'll second if that's the complete motion.
Yes.
All right.
Any other comments on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Or I guess we should do a roll call vote on that one, please.
Commissioner Walters,
Yes.
Commissioner Late,
Aye.
Commissioner Kilroy,
Yes.
Commissioner Carlson,
Aye.
Chairperson Jerzon,
Aye.
Commissioner Callahan.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, now my second motion was to keep the coral trees.
Second.
Discussion.
Discussion, thank you.
Coral trees are horribly destructive. They uproot. Well, have you been to the post office lately and tried to step over the gigantic root system? I mean, they could be replaced with something really nice.
Yeah, I went and checked them out today. It's one of those situations where they're kind of big for the space and the ground is just nothing but roots.
I guess the intent of my
But you'd
motion
want to
is
replace
we
with,
are
Yeah, we
losing
wanna
trees in the
maintain-
city.
So let's replace them.
maintain.
Well, let's just say, ensure, okay, so I take the friendly amendment and
Keep or replace.
keep or replace coral trees with mature trees. Mature alternatives.
So typically in planning commission lingo, we specify a certain box size for the tree, like a 48-inch, whatever. And it relates back to the maturity. So is that appropriate in this place, in this situation?
That would be very appropriate.
Pick a box size.
So what do we usually go with, about 48-inch?
No, well, actually, there's two schools of thought on this. One is that the smaller box size and 15-gallon root better, and long-term it's better for the health of the tree. But with a larger 48 or even 60-inch box tree, you get an instant effect. So it just depends on what you're seeking.
I think we plan to be here for a while. Along that same line, I guess it should be with the approval of city staff, because I know there are specific types of trees that you want to see with consistency for landscaping and everything.
Yes,
Okay.
there is a recommended tree list.
So my friendly amendment would be, if the coral trees are removed, they be replaced with 36 inch?
36 is pretty
36 inch
standard.
As approved by the
box
city.
trees as approved by city staff.
Yeah, can we just say something recommended by city staff, size and,
Well, not recommended, but approved by.
I think,
I mean, approved, sorry. I'm just wondering, do we need to say a diameter or?
Yes, that would, I think it would be better to specify the box size.
Yes, I accept the friendly amendment.
Second?
We have a second.
Discussion?
I think
My discussion, you could also say would be, consistent with the amenities plan, because this is the kind of thing the amenities plan is supposed to cover. It's supposed to be sort of the,
Yeah.
the homeowners
Is that at
association.
the end, consistent with the?
I don't, because I just read the section on trees and it just says canopy trees. And it kind of points to, other things we're doing. And we had pointed out that the trees should be, in a previous meeting, we said that the trees should be, there was specific language, native.
Drought tolerant and
Drought tolerant or native?
Native was not the right word. It was native compatible or something.
native and drought tolerant,
Yeah.
or drought tolerant and climate adaptive. And
There you go.
There is specific language.
Add sustainable
Yeah.
in there.
So as long as you're comfortable that the city is doing that kind of planning going forward,
yes,
I think it's the equivalent, what they approve or amenities plan.
I mean, it
So-
can't hurt though, to say
I'm fine with that.
in line with Harbor.
The
'Cause this
amenities
is-
plan just says there's canopies and palm trees and they're used in different areas to
Okay.
give different areas different look and feel. So
Yeah.
I think these are canopy trees and they should be approved by.
That's right.
What he's doing, so.
Right, okay.
I accept the friendly amendment. Don't, we have to second it, right?
Second.
Again? Okay, got a second.
Okay, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Roll call vote. Commissioner Walters,
Yes.
Commissioner Light,
Aye.
Commissioner Kilroy,
I'll switch and go with the ayes. Majority.
Commissioner Carlson,
Aye.
Chairperson Cherzon,
Aye.
Commissioner Callahan.
Aye.
It passes.
Motion passes, thank you.
Okay, number 3. So I think I missed the third one you were recommending, Roger, but what I had recommended was send a message to the council that, one, we're very supportive and excited by this project, and that we recommend that they strongly consider an extended lease terms. And we were talking about adding something about
The friendly amendment I was
coming back after 6
considering was recognizing the area homeowner concern with possible noise complaints and recommending that the city allow them to have music under the normal entertainment permit process, but consider suggesting that they come back after 6 months to evaluate how the entertainment permit is working out. 6 months after
Opening.
opening. And that would be a suggestion to city council.
I'm open to that. I'd really do it by complaints and city staff bringing it back, but I'm open to the suggestion.
But this also helps voice our opinion to council by making that
Well,
friendly, right?
it captures the residents' concern.
Right, and it captures that.
What are they coming back for, Roger? After 6 months to report on their noise? I don't understand.
To examine the complaints.
Well, what if there aren't any? So,
That's what's reported.
Yeah, I guess they have to come back after a year to re-up the
yeah.
permit.
Yeah, I don't think they need to come back. I think that's the city's job.
Fair enough.
Commissioners, I
Okay.
just also want to make sure that you do understand that those entertainment permits are the sole discretion of the city council.
Right.
And not the purview of the Harbor Commission. So
Yeah. I think we should stay out of that.
Yeah, I was taking Greg's suggestion that we make a suggestion to the city council that they put a 6 months evaluation on the entertainment permit when the time comes.
You could definitely recommend that city council reevaluate their issuance of entertainment permits for
But
this specific.
if it's handled on a 1-year cycle anyway,
It usually is, yes.
you know, the difference between 6 months and a year in the harbor is kind of the same thing because wintertime is pretty dead. So,
Absolutely.
But they hope not to be.
yeah. So I'm fine with leaving that out.
Leaving it out? Okay,
I don't hear, strong support. I wanted to discuss it, but I don't hear strong support for it. So
okay.
leave it out.
So, any
So
other
do we have
I need
a
a second.
second?
I think we already discussed.
So just to confirm, Jim, our recommendation is we approve the project, and we're recommending that
We're excited about it. We approved the resolution with minor changes, and that we asked them to strongly consider extended lease.
extended lease. So we don't say specific time frame.
Do you want us to write a hard copy letter to council? Is that what the third one is?
Greg, do you think you got it, or do you want us to write it?
I think I got that. That's pretty simple.
I trust Greg.
I trust Greg.
Thank you.
Only because you're not here. You're like the voice of God.
It is.
Okay, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Walters,
Aye.
Commissioner Light,
Aye.
Commissioner Kilroy,
Aye.
Commissioner Carlson,
Yes.
Chairperson Cherzon,
Aye.
and Commissioner Callahan.
Aye.
Motion
It passes.
carries.
That's it on this one.
Great.
Thank you
Good luck,
very
guys.
much, applicants.
Congratulations.
Go make it happen.
Yeah.
We'll make it happen. Hurry up.
Okay. Back to the agenda. We are now on to K, items continued from previous agendas. Is there anything there, Greg?
No, there's not.
Okay. L1, Director's Report.
Yeah, I have a couple updates for you guys. At the November 15th City Council meeting, they approved a few leases. The first was Suave Fair, which was the CUP for the childcare center that you guys approved a couple months ago. So that got approved, and they should be working on building permits here pretty soon. They also had a couple on International Boardwalk. There's a new gift shop going in called Trade Winds and Pineapple Alley. And there is a new ownership of El Baja Chef. So that one got re-upped. Moving on to the December 6th City Council meeting, they actually approved an amendment to the Spawn Ranch contract. If you remember, Spawn Ranch is the company that's building the skate park over at Pad 10, as well as at Perry Park. Again, the cost was approved at an increased amount to accommodate for some design changes. The good news is that with this new approval, the work at Perry Park was expected to start this week. I'm not sure if that happened yesterday, but that was the plan. And that was a 1 week turnaround. And then the Pad 10 site was supposed to start on December 19th, and that's an 8-week process. I'm hopeful that the schedule remains as indicated there. Also, we have an update for the dredging project. Our city public works department did receive a permit to do that dredging. We're going to be holding a coordination meeting between staff on the 15th of December to go over the plans, the surveys, kind of the work schedule. They did get a couple of locations approved of where we're going to dump that excess sand. Essentially, the Coastal Commission and the Water Board chimed in on both of those, and there's an off-site location located south of our harbor and our pier, kind of near the Torrance beach area there. That's where we've got authority to place 100% of that sand deposit. There's also an interior area that we can dump off some of it. It doesn't stipulate what some is, so I'll find out on December 15th on what that is. But essentially in January, I'll have a more detailed update for you on that. In addition, we've got an update to our Harbor Patrol Dock project. We were supposed to be underway a few weeks ago, maybe even last month. Turns out we had to do a change order, and which resulted in a time extension. Essentially, the original approval didn't include jetting as an approved pile installation method. But this method was chosen after the fact because it would allow for use of a smaller barge. Now, the city doesn't have a problem with this, but this change order and this change of, pile installation method has to be reviewed by both the Water Board and the Coastal Commission. So the extension covers an additional 150 days to accommodate those reviews. I don't know when the anticipated start day is going to be, but I do know the expiration date for the project itself was extended from March of 2023 to October of 2023. So it did get kicked out a little bit. And then one last final announcement, and it's more of a reminder. You guys are usually pretty good about this, so it's really a reminder. If you are going to miss a meeting, please be sure to email myself as well as the city clerk's office. And that completes my director's report.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Greg, with regards to the dredging, you're starting to put together plans and everything else with regards to it. Is there a communication component to that, to the public as to what's going on?
I'm not sure. I know that there was a lot of outreach that was done when it was going through the Army Corps of Engineers. There were public hearings related to that outside of the city. I don't know if there's, a public-facing component at this end of the process. But again, we're meeting on the 15th, so that's something I can iron out and come back to you guys out with in January, or even email you guys an update if January is too late.
Well, I was going to wait till referrals to staff, but I'd like to agendize it to discuss the dumping sites, because I think we were pretty adamant against dumping
inside the harbor.
in the harbor.
Yeah.
Is that what we would do to further convey our opinion on the location, Greg? We need to agendize it?
You would. I'm not the expert in this realm. I know our engineering team has dealt with, the Army Corps of Engineers, the Water Board, and the Coastal Commission, and locations of where the sand would be essentially dumped was within their purview. If you guys had
within the two, you said there's a meeting on December 15th. If we want to give input on the December 15th meeting, people, is that,
the
we agendize it
meeting
for
on the
January,
15th
or what?
is really an internal staff meeting to get everybody on the same page.
Right. I think basically we want to reiterate our prior opinion before a PO goes out, right? Does that need to be agendized?
Yeah, technically we can't debate this issue because it
Right.
wasn't properly agendized.
Well, we can reiterate what we said. We can read the minutes from 10 meetings ago on
That's
this.
what I basically said.
Yeah.
But I'd like to
And-
agendize it so we get a chance to formally weigh in and get, if anybody from the public wants to speak on it.
And my only question was, is the timing of our January meeting sufficient for whatever happens after that December 15th meeting?
Greg?
I'm not sure. I could pose this at the December 15th meeting and get back in touch with the chair and vice chair to make a decision.
Well, just to make it clear, all we got is we got a permit, right?
Can we get a copy of that?
Right, so we have a permit, that's not the contract to go do it. So I think we have time to influence the RFP, and obviously staff and the city council can override.
We know it's
which
going
is
to be
what we had
cheaper
asked
to
for.
dump it in the harbor.
Yeah, but not
But
necessarily
it's not a good idea.
cheaper in the short run.
Yeah.
So in the same part of that RFP, I know the last time dredging was done, I think it was Marina Del Rey dredging, sand got dumped.
Yeah, we
on
talked
ours.
about that.
There was quite a few questions from the populace, and I just think it's something to get ahead of and would be prudent to put maybe part of the RFP, depending upon who you're going to have reach out. But that was my whole point.
Well, hopefully
Asking the
before we generate
question.
the RFP, if we're all against it, and city council agrees, it doesn't go in the RFP.
What doesn't go?
The internal dump site, it's just dump it all.
Yeah, but the communication component is regardless.
Oh, I agree. Anyway, I'd like to make them, since we have to agendize it, we have to make a motion. I'd like to make the motion to agendize it for our next meeting.
Second.
I'll approve.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries to agendize dredging dump site for next meeting.
Sorry, can I ask two more questions on dredging? And I at risk of going too long on dredging. Greg, can we get a copy of the permit, or is it online somewhere? Is it at the Army Corps website or something?
I don't know. I can get you guys something. I'll get it from Public Works and disseminate it to you guys via email.
Yeah, and Greg, just so you know, what you sent me it just had links to generic Corps of Engineers stuff. It didn't have the specific permit, so I couldn't read anything to prep for this meeting.
And my second question is, are we trying to do the dredging in the first half of 2023, or does it look like 2024?
It's looking like 2024.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we have time.
That's a better, more succinct question than that.
With that, well, it may be too late to make a friendly amendment, but we could agendize this in January, or we could, as long as we cover it on a Harbor Commission meeting before the RFP goes out, I'm happy. And I know I'm undoing just something that we just voted on, but I'm happy to agendize it in January, but.
I'm good either way.
Let's do it,
As long as
Jim.
it's before
Yeah.
the RFP is finalized and approved by the council, I'm fine with it.
Okay.
We kind of already voted, but.
We did, I apologize.
It's okay.
See what?
Thanks, Greg. So we're on to end commission items and referrals to staff, which I think we already just did one of them. Any other referrals?
I think it's adjournment.
I had one question, Greg. The Fun Factory and the seismic retrofits. I was curious, and I did not go down there recently to that area. Do we have a sign there that indicates why it's remaining stagnant? Like, I was kind of thinking of, road improvements where they say your tax dollars at work. To just show like, yes, we are trying to keep things safe and retrofitting and.
No, we
Might be
don't. We
worthwhile.
don't have anything out there, as you know. It's not a bad idea, though, just to show people that, we understand we have this big empty area that nobody's using right now, but in fact, we are using it because we're doing these important upgrades. I'll pose that to Public Works because it's not a bad idea.
Thanks.
I have some questions for staff.
Yes.
Greg, a couple questions and other things I've heard. I've heard that the city web pages are getting updated. Will there be any update on, or will there be a web page for the harbor at all, do you know? We basically don't have one now.
Absolutely, there will be one. There'll be a really, 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 really good one.
Awesome.
Dave, Lori, and myself are working hard to get rid of erroneous pages from the past, dead links, and really try to keep what's prudent. Obviously, the amenities plan being paramount. But yes, it's going to be designed to be with minimal clicks and pretty pictures and pertinent information.
Yeah, great. It's hard to find information on the harbor. If you're a boater coming in, it's hard to know, like, do we have a pump out dock? Do we have a gas dock? Do we have a dinghy dock? Things like that.
Right.
Next question I had for you,
any update on waterfront education status?
Yes, so there's a CUP that's in with our planning division right now. It was submitted in mid-November. Planning staff is working with Julie Cole, the applicant, to make revisions to that submittal. We were supposed to meet today. I think that meeting got pushed tomorrow to review some of those corrections. But once the application is ready, much like the Project Barley and the one we heard tonight, we will agendize on the next Harbor Commission meeting.
Yay.
Cool. Another one for you. Any update on the short pier? It sounds like a demo is going to start.
Yeah, City Council approved for full demo. We are seeking funding sources for that as we speak. Public Works didn't have an update for me as of last week with regards to the update on where we're at with funding. There's a little money in the general fund that we can lean on, but it's not going to get us all the way there. We're also looking at getting additional quotes that may be a little bit cheaper. So incremental progress.
Great. That's everything I've got. Thanks.
Great. Anyone else? Well, with that, I think we can adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I'll approve.
Aye.
Adjourned. Thank you.
Good meeting.
Thanks for helping me out.
Good meeting.
I'm sorry for asking 10.